First of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given.
When Trump decided to rename the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, it reminded me of when my kid was 2 and he called the Empire State Building the Umpire State Building. Now that was cute, but he was 2. If he was pushing 80 and said stupid shit like that and demanded that I call it that, I'd say he had dementia and I'd put him in a straitjacket, which ain't so cute.
Changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. A future date, pretty soon, we're going to change because we do most of the work there and it's ours. The Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Now, when Donnie Ship My Pants says that, does he really think everyone's going to go, bueno, senor? Sure, he can rename the Gulf, but then he sounds like those rednecks that claim they should be able to say the N-word. It's ridiculous, but it's also a tell. Trump is a racist who thinks he has absolute power and everything he says is true. And now Trump is demanding that we all act like him. But no, we're not gonna.
The Associated Press, AP, says the White House barred one of its reporters for continuing to use Gulf of Mexico instead of Gulf of America. Here's what we know. According to AP, the unidentified reporter was denied entry to a White House event they regularly attended. Later, another AP journalist was also barred from the White House diplomatic room. AP has reported that the Trump administration officials have warned that journalists who refuse to use Gulf of America will be banned from White House press events. AP argues this move could violate the First Amendment. AP's senior vice president and executive editor, Julie Pace, responded, "It is alarming that the Trump administration would punish AP for its independent journalism. Limiting our access to the Oval Office based on the content of AP's speech not only severely impedes the public's access to independent news, it plainly violates the First Amendment." After President Trump signed an executive order renaming the Gulf of Mexico, AP issued a style guide update stating, "Trump's order only carries authority within the United States. Mexico, as well as other countries and international bodies, do not have to recognize the name change. The Gulf of Mexico has carried that name for more than 400 years. The Associated Press will refer to it by its original name."
Now, a couple of things there. Republicans get all lathered when a person of one gender identifies with another gender.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders.
They get up in your face and act like they're God or something.
There are demonic forces.
But can the First Lady rename an international body of water? I mean, I guess he can call it anything he wants. He calls Rubio Lil Marco, Ted Cruz Lion Ted, Biden Sleepy Joe. You get it. He's a 12-year-old. But Gulf of America? While a name change is theoretically possible, it's not made unilaterally, and other nations are not obligated to recognize it. The U.S. and Mexico are members of a thing called the International Hydrographic Organization, which Trump will probably want to rename. These guys oversee the naming of the world's seas, oceans, and navigable waters. In practice, countries sometimes refer to the same body of water or a landmark by different names in their own documentation. But official changes require international consensus. This actually happened when I was a kid. Some religious groups wanted to rename Lake Titicaca, even though it's not in the U.S. I mean, you can't make that up.
How do we change names on a map? President Trump signed an executive order renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, and he also changed the name of Alaska's Mount Denali back to Mount McKinley. And so everyone is asking if he can do this, and the answer is, if it has to do with American names and American maps, then pretty much. There are a few ways to change a name on a map. First, a president can sign an executive order like Trump did, but countries outside the United States are not required to use the name. Second, you can pass a law to change a name, which Marjorie Taylor Trumpy has also introduced. Third, you can send a request to the U.S. Board on Geographic Names, which you may have never heard of, but it is in fact a real federal office.
So I need something?
Any citizen can send a request to this board to change the name of something on a map. But you can't just pull the name out of your like you can't just go say that some road should be named after you. Though that is a good idea. According to their website, they discourage name changes unless there is a compelling reason. An example of a compelling reason is when something is commonly known as a different name, not necessarily historically known as a different name. Now, outside the US, the UN Group of Experts on Geographical Names mandates name changes to be recognized globally. And if all else fails, you can try to edit a name in Google Maps or just start using a new name and see if it sticks. Oh My World Road.
Can you name any country on this map?
Honestly, my geography is so horrible. I can't name anything. Like
Try
nothing.
naming something.
Is it South Africa?
Nope.
We have the country of Asia.
Nope. that's a continent, and that's Russia.
Oh, damn. I'm silly.
That's okay.
Man, it's been a while since I've been in school.
Unfettered last month, as you just heard, Dairy Queen announced a plan to introduce a bill supporting the renaming. When Google Maps said it would change the name of Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, everybody said, oh, come on, Google. But that's not really a victory for Trump. If you look up Gulf of Mexico in any of the other 150-odd countries in the world, Google didn't change it. It's Mexico, not America. Google posted a tweet on X saying, when official names vary between countries, map users see the official local name. Everyone in the rest of the world sees the original name. That applies here too. So what Trump is trying to do is force everyone into this weird little boner fantasy about changing the world. Wait till he finds out that America was named after an Italian. Here's Propaganda Barbie defending the First Lady.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is. The Secretary of Interior has made that the official designation in the geographical identification name server. And Apple has recognized that. Google has recognized that. Pretty much every other outlet in this room has recognized that body of water as the Gulf of America. And it's very important to this administration that we get that right, not just for people here at home, but also for the rest of the world.
Now, it's not a fact that everything Trump claims is true. What is a fact that he lies more than anyone who has ever held that position. And most of his lies are about his fragile ego. But what's really worrisome is Trump telling people they must adhere to his version of the truth. And by people, I mean journalists. It started back in 2016 when Sean Spicer declared this.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
But as you can clearly see in this picture, he's full of shit. Then there was the Russian interference in our election, which 17 different U.S. intelligence agencies concurred. And Tiny Fingers continues to lie about immigrants coming from jails and mental institutions.
They're eating the dogs.
When he can't name one country that's done this. So what's next? Do we now call New Mexico New America? And does every little Italy become Little America?
Okay, what a beautiful name.
And Trump's new name? What should that be? How does Pouty Winkle sound?
Damn right.
I'm as mad as hell.
Whether the women like it or not.
That's a good one.
Suck my fat one.
That's a good one.
And this guy's personal life is a total disaster.
Trust me.
Shut the f*** up, Darren. Who's with me?
Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.